What's up, Knight fans? Welcome back to Holding Court with Coach Todd Dagenais. And along with the coach, I am Jeff Sharon. And Coach, understatement of the week. Pretty big week this week, wasn't it?
It was kind of an interesting weekend, yes.
What a huge weekend for UCF volleyball, of course, down at the Florida Gulf Coast tournament down in Fort Myers, as UCF gets the clean sweep in 3 matches, wins all 3 matches, wins the tournament, including their very first one against number 3 Southern California. If I were to tell you that at the beginning of the week, what would you have told me to go do?
I don't know. You know, it just the thought never crossed our mind. Not that we couldn't beat them, but it was never about a result. It was really about preparation of playing in a tournament against 3 quality opponents.
First of all, it's the highest ranked team UCF has ever beaten in volleyball history, at least in the NCAA. And to do so in the fashion that you did in a sweep, how did you feel about that? Were you surprised at the result? Was it something that you knew was possible, but only in maybe your wildest dreams? How did you see the way that match played out? How did you react to it?
It was just an interesting week, I thought. You know, we really spent a ton of time preparing for Furman.
Yeah.
Furman was a team that just came off a huge win over Wisconsin, competed great against a ranked team in Duke. Mm-hmm. And, heading into the weekend, you say, this is the one we need to win. Well, Furman was the one that we knew we needed to win. And the tough thing about Furman is that we were going to come off of the match against USC and have to play them. Mm-hmm. We really did not spend, honest to goodness, we did not spend a ton of time preparing for USC. And the team wanted to know why. And I thought that maybe they were a little bit offended that we didn't. And I said, because you know them. And they kind of looked at me and I said, no, you know them. You know their plays because we run them. You know their schemes because we run them. You know what they call it. They're going to call it the same thing because we run it. You already know their team, so there's nothing to scout them. The only difference is they probably have 3 or maybe 4 All-Americans running the scheme. I said, that's probably the biggest difference. I said, so, there's no reason to be offended that we're not preparing for USC. We already know who they are. And really, we're going to spend time preparing for these other teams that do a lot of things that are different than who we are. They accepted that, and we just kind of moved on into the preparation phase.
It's kind of like what Coach Denny Green, when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, said, they are who we thought they were, and they're us. But I thought that the most impressive part about it was, what a huge Friday. You get the victory over USC. And by the way, we're going to talk more about that in depth in our second installment, a special installment of Holding Court this week. So be sure you tune in for that here on UCFAthletics.com. But not just that, but like you said, to turn around and play a team like Furman and get the victory over them that same day. Furman, like we said last week, had already beaten Wisconsin. Pretty good Big Ten team. They're athletic. They know what they're doing, and I think it's easy for maybe us as casual fans to just dismiss Furman because they're Furman. They're not in the Big Ten or the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, or any of those other squads. But they're a good team, and we walked in, and off of that emotional high from beating Southern Cal, you go and you get the victory against Furman. How key was that?
I was huge. Obviously you come off an emotional win, and it was an emotional locker room afterwards, and. That we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But we had a sandwich, mm-hmm. and we started watching game film. That's how we celebrated our big win, was by preparing to try and get the next one. And that was it. It was all about preparing to play Furman. Yeah. They run a unique offensive scheme. We had a zone block a lot. Our trap blocking, a lot of things that we normally do, we couldn't do against them. It was really something that we were significantly concerned about because they can run it for some pretty high levels. And we just prepared, got into the match, and we didn't play great. We were able to keep them in check and just score a few more points than they scored and kind of squeaked out a 3-0 win, I think.
Yeah. And then when you finish up the tournament, obviously, and we've talked about this, because on occasion we've been, I think that we've sometimes run into this on occasion, and also teams have done it, and also we've done it to other teams where you play that home team in Florida Gulf Coast in the final match of the tournament to win that match. To close it out like that, against the home team, where they had at least some environment going on down there in Fort Myers. Showed some killer instinct, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we walk into that match almost blind because we spent so much time on Furman.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what lineup Gulf Coast was going to use. They're trying a couple different things. They're using 2 different setters. Could have been a 6-2. It could have been a 5-1. So the scouting report was just crazy. And so we just simplified it, and we gave our team the nuts and bolts and said, just you have to go out and play. We just have to go out there and execute better than what they do. And I thought we absolutely did that. We went out there and we just executed in all facets of the game. And really, that one wasn't as close as what the Furman match was. Again, we weren't great, but we were pretty good and good enough to get by.
So UCF now 5-1 on the season as we come back home for the next 4 matches for the tournament coming up this weekend. And it doesn't get any easier now because, obviously still riding that high off of Southern Cal, and also the good tournament performance in the opening week. But now you have some very, very difficult opponents coming up, and they're all going to present very unique challenges of their own and on their own orders of magnitude, aren't they?
They are, and we have to play Greensboro first.
Yeah.
And Greensboro is a team that we have some history with. The last 2 years in a row we've played them. 2 years in a row we've been down 2-0 to them. They had us on the brink of beating us. And 2 years in a row we came back to win both those matches in 5.
Yeah.
And so darn well they're trying to break that streak. And it's the same thing as Gulf Coast in some ways, as they're running a 5-1 and a 6-2 and they're interchanging players, and it's a moving target. I don't know exactly what we're going to get in those guys. All I know is that we're just going to have to probably just line it up and play against them. Then we have to come back that night and play Pitt. And Pittsburgh,
volleyball 4 too.
Exactly, and hopefully we've got a couple thousand people there at that match where we play this Big East team who's going to be a contender in the Big East Conference and has been for the last few years. Ironically, it's another coach that I have some history with. Toby Renz is the head coach at Pittsburgh. He was the head coach at Northern Michigan, and I was his assistant for a semester up there when we were doing a pretty good job at the Division II level. So it's another person that I have some history with, and so that's going to be an exciting match. We get to take a day off on Saturday and kind of recoup and get ready to play Florida Atlantic. In-state team wants to kick our butt. And then we have to finish that night with University of South Florida. And, you throw out all the rules anytime you're playing a rival school. And so there's so many challenges. It was a mistake probably to schedule it the way we did. But it is what it is. And we just have to go out there and we have to find a way to meet the challenge.
Do you think that it's playing, those 4 caliber teams in the span of 3 days, 2 doubleheaders, separated by that day off? What sort of a test do you think this is for this roster now coming into that particular setting? Because it's not just SC and Furman and Florida Gulf Coast. There's no break in that schedule now, and you've got in-state opponents that are coming in, like you said, that want to get us real bad because they know that we're coming off of that emotional high from Southern Cal. They could help themselves out a lot, can't they?
Sure, absolutely. RPI-wise, and they'll make themselves feel pretty good about themselves to knock off a team that knocked off this team. And that's what we were doing with Furman. We wanted Furman because they beat Wisconsin, and so those kinds of things we're just gonna have to mature, grow up, and we're gonna have to deal with that week in and week out. It is. It's a big challenge in a lot of different ways, and we're going to have to be deep as a team because there is no way I can play the same starting lineup for 4 matches. So now is the time for all 4 middles to step up and stake their claim. It's going to be time for all 3 outsides to step up and take their claim. So we've got a lot to accomplish this weekend, and we're going to need everybody to do it. And honestly, Jeff, I think that's the fun thing heading into this weekend is that we're going to have to depend on everybody if we're going to survive it.
Speaking of survival, Conference USA headlines this week. Obviously, we were the ones who made the big headlines this week, but what else did you see out there in the league in terms of the early returns for this season?
Again, there's still some good things happening. There's teams out there that are still cutting their teeth, but really I think we see that the conference as a whole is strong. Our win percentage is way higher than what it was last year.
Yep.
Our RPI as a conference is going to be significantly higher than what it was last year. Teams are all out there playing the USCs and the Michigan States of the world, so the records may not be as good as what we'd want them to be, but the RPI is going to be even higher. With that being said, we still have a higher win percentage than what we had last year. I tell you, I'm really happy and proud of what UTEP is doing. They're 8-0 right now.
Yeah.
And they're building up a conference RPI, and we're going to get to see them right away once we start conference. But Memphis is out there doing some good things. Tulsa's out there doing good things. SMU's out there doing good things. I mean, they're all out there, really making a nice name for the conference. And I feel like we've got 4 or 5 on the board on Selection Sunday, and I think we can get at least 3 in.
And it's nice having Conference USA and UCF as part of that national conversation too, like we were saying. And when you look at that national picture, obviously Penn State's still a big dog, but what else are some of the things that you saw from this past week that you thought that kind of piqued your interest?
Yeah, I thought Cal solidified themselves. I thought UCLA just took a huge step. They went out and beat Hawaii.
Yeah.
Minnesota beating Texas not once but twice. That has significance for us because USC beat Minnesota, and Minnesota's beaten Texas twice. And those are RPI points that go into our piggy bank. And, right now Cal is number 1, Penn State's number 2. There's been some shift because number 3 has fallen. SC fell to 9. But they have an opportunity. They're going to play UCLA this week. And so they'll have their opportunity to climb right back up into the top 5 again. And so I think we don't know exactly who number 1 is. We know that Stanford, Cal, Minnesota, I guess now, SC, UCLA are all in this mix of who could be number 1. It's not something that's going to be squared away until regional finals, semifinals in December.
And if I'm not mistaken, Cal out of the Pac-12, first time ever in their history that they've been ranked number 1. Is that
I think
correct?
that is correct, yeah. And Coach Feller's just done such a great job of taking a program that was really on the skids, and he built that thing up into a powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And he's just really done an excellent job. And I think that's a great blueprint and model for a lot of us to follow that are trying to go in those footsteps.
It's going to be fun seeing how Cal stacks up as the season goes on when conference play starts against teams the likes of USC and Stanford and UCLA. So, all right, here's what we're going to do, folks. Don't forget also, first of all, like Coach was talking about, Volleyball 4 against Pittsburgh coming up this Friday night, 8 p.m. We got 4 matches coming up this weekend, 2 on Friday, 2 on Sunday. Of course, Volleyball 4, we have the ticket promotion going on. First 1,000 students through the door get tickets to the UCF versus Boston College football game the following day, which is Saturday. Also, Sunday afternoon and evening, UCF taking on 2 huge in-state opponents. Florida Atlantic, our old conference opponents from the Atlantic Sun days, now in the Sun Belt Conference, and also USF. We talked about that, how important that match is, as always, in the course of the season. So make sure to be at the venue this week or this weekend for all 4 of those matches, especially Volleyball 4 against Pitt. For more information, hit up UCFathletics.com. Also follow us on Twitter, UCF_volleyball, and on Facebook, look up UCF Volleyball. All right, now stick around, and you stick around. We're going to go more in depth about the Southern California match here in just a moment, and actually our second edition of Holding Court for the week, a special USC edition of Holding Court with Coach Todd Dagenais. Stick around and click on the next video as soon as we close the book on this one.